9 months. That is the common timeline for pregnancy. But the most significant biological events actually happen in the first 9 days, long before most women even realize they're pregnant. This diagram shows what that very first moment looks like. A single cell, called a zygote, is smaller than the period at the end of a sentence, yet it contains 46 chromosomes and roughly 3 billion chemical base pairs. Printed in standard text, it would fill over 1,000 books, all packed into something invisible to the naked eye. Within 24 hours, the zygote divides for the first time. 1 cell becomes 2, then 4, then 8. Biologists call these early cells totipotent, meaning each one holds the pure, uncommitted potential to become any specific organ or tissue in the body, from brain matter to bone. This cross-section illustrates the transformation by day 4. The cluster becomes a blastocyst, a hollow sphere containing 2 distinct biological destinies. That dense inner cluster will become the baby. The outer shell will become the placenta. To survive, this blastocyst faces its first major hurdle, implantation. It must burrow into the uterine wall and establish a blood supply, a process that requires a precise exchange of chemical signals between the microscopic cluster and the uterus. These signals must be perfectly timed. If the molecular conversation is even slightly off, implantation fails, and the process ends before a test can detect it. This diagram maps the pathway of the first communication. When implantation succeeds, the outer cells immediately release HCG. This hormone travels across the pelvis to the ovary with a strict command: keep producing progesterone and do not shed the uterine lining. A chemical request sent from something smaller than a pinhead. From these first moments, pregnancy is an aggressive, precisely engineered construction project. The body is in a state of active, invisible transformation long before the outside world can see it. In the first trimester, the biological timeline accelerates. Between weeks 3 and 8, every major organ system in the human body forms in a window of just 5 weeks. The milestones are rapid. The neural tube forms at week 3, and by week 6, the embryo has rhythmic electrical contractions. By week 8, the embryo is roughly the size of a raspberry, yet its fingers are already taking shape. This speed makes the first trimester uniquely vulnerable. The rapid cellular division follows a strict timetable, where missing a developmental window by only a few hours can disrupt the formation of a particular structure. This unique vulnerability helps explain morning sickness. Research suggests that the nausea experienced in early pregnancy is a protective mechanism. It peaks exactly when the embryo is most sensitive to toxins, steering the mother away from strong-smelling or bitter foods that might contain contaminants. Simultaneously, the placenta begins its work. This engineering marvel acts as a lung, kidney, digestive system, and hormone factory all at once. This diagram illustrates the placenta's most complex task: immunological privilege. Because the fetus carries genetic material from both parents, the mother's immune system should technically attack it. Instead, the placenta creates a molecular truce, suppressing local immune responses to protect the genetically distinct fetus. The mother's body is constantly and actively deploying these complex countermeasures to protect a life it cannot yet even see. By the second trimester, fetal movements like kicking and swallowing become tangible. These are not random spasms, but vital neurological practice. The brain is sending signals to the limbs, preparing the body for the outside world. Between weeks 20 and 30, the developing brain forms roughly 1 million new synaptic connections every single second. The physical architecture for every future thought and memory is being constructed at this speed, entirely in the dark. While the brain builds itself, fetal cells cross the placental barrier and enter the mother's bloodstream. They migrate into her lungs, her liver, her kidneys, and her brain. It is a phenomenon known as fetal microchimerism. These cells can live inside the mother's organs for decades. Some research suggests they may even act as an internal repair system, heading towards sites of injury or inflammation in the mother's tissue. The biological boundary between mother and child does not end at birth. On a cellular and molecular level, the mother is permanently altered by the life she carried. The final weeks are governed by a precise chemical shift. Progesterone levels drop, oxytocin rises, and the cervix begins to chemically soften in preparation for birth. This diagram shows the mechanics of cervical dilation. To allow for birth, the cervix undergoes a complete structural remodeling. The strong collagen fibers that kept the structure firm are enzymatically broken down and dynamically reorganized to allow for massive physical expansion. When labor begins, the uterine muscle contracts with a rhythmic, building force that has no equivalent anywhere else in the human body. This is the conclusion of a monumental sequence, from the first chemical signal and rapid organ formation to the immune truce and the construction of 1 million neural connections every second. Human birth is a scientific marvel perfected over millions of years. It ends with a new life that is already hardwired to recognize the voice that